Cory Allen has spent the majority of his career in the military and law enforcement, including an assignment with the Secret Service to guard First Lady Michelle Obama. From surviving Don't Ask, Don't Tell to applying for spousal benefits for his husband, Cory has a story to tell. And he told it in his first book, Breaking Free, a saga of self-discovery by a gay Secret Service agent. We've got a lot to talk about. Cory Allen, come on in.
Good afternoon, Amber. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you. All right. I'm going to go start from the beginning. I want to know how someone becomes a Secret Service agent. So, in your youth, where did you grow up and what prompted you to pursue that career?
Yeah, it wasn't anything I set out to do. It was never a childhood dream. I had a lot of early interaction with law enforcement growing up. Just we had domestic violence in the home. So I was calling the police often, and I had those early interactions, which really left an imprint on me as an individual. Floundering around, I went into the military at 21. A few years later, I applied to the same police department that I used to call for help. And then I worked for them for 6 years, kind of role reversal there. And then I finished my bachelor's degree in 2007. And then I started applying to go federal, FBI, and the Secret Service. And then the Secret Service was the first to offer me a job. And I moved to Miami in January of 2010 for the Secret Service. And that's what kicked off my federal career. That was now 14 years ago. It's been a minute.
Wow. Yes, time does fly. When did you come out as gay in that time?
Ooh, I was deeply closeted because I grew up in a very conservative part of it. Was just outside of Richmond, Virginia. So I was closeted. I could have been fired for being gay at any point in my employment as a police officer there, and of course during the military, don't ask, don't tell. So it wasn't until Supreme Court cases in 2013 and 2015 helped give me a little bit more confidence that I was now out of probation. The Secret Service couldn't fire me at that point. But it wasn't until that I started protecting the Obamas that I was surrounded by just an amazing group of people who made me feel warm and welcome and accepted that I really came out, actually. It was probably 2017, 18 that I really stepped out and was able to be my true, authentic self.
Now, while you were in the military and working for that sheriff's department, how did you feel as being a closeted gay man? Did you feel threatened or you just laid low?
Both. So I ended up perfecting living two separate lives. So as soon as I could, I bought a condo in the west end of Richmond, which was just more progressive and safe. So I moved out of the county where I was working. And so at that point, I was then dating my future husband. And we just lived our lives completely separately. And I just made sure to not allow those two to intersect. Of hearing the things that were being said, even in roll call, my former supervisor using the F word in the middle of roll call and just hearing the gay slurs. And I just knew it was not a safe environment for me. And then it would have also ended my career. So I just had to deal with it, but also keep my head down and avoid the fray, if you will.
Now, when you were in the military, did you know of other gay men?
No, I had
really
no known role models, both in my policing career or in the military. I just didn't have access to that. This is before the advent of smartphones. So no, I didn't have role models, and I didn't know anybody else who was gay in the military. So I just dated women and did what I thought I was supposed to be doing to, stay undercover, if you will.
A lot of us have been there.
Unfortunately.
Have you heard back from anybody you served in the military with or at that sheriff's department since you've come out?
Oh, yeah. Just flew back from Virginia late last night. Went home for Thanksgiving to spend time with my family. And I still run into police officers that I worked with 15 years ago. And to hear the stories that, it's been so long with this new generation of officers who come in, but my sister's husband, I guess, works in the school, and the school resource officer asked, and he was like, "Oh no, I never met Cory, but I definitely know of him." So my legacy apparently is still there.
Very good. All right. Why the Secret Service? What propelled you to say, I want to be in the Secret Service?
The allure of it. It was something mysterious. It was something high profile, and it was so prestigious. And my track record, my resume was spotless, and I was doing a great job of getting, great performance ratings and just doing everything I needed to do. So I would have gone FBI or Secret Service, but at Secret Service called first. I took the job, and it was 3 months later that the FBI called and offered me a job. And I was already in the Secret Service Academy, and I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm going to stay here. But it was the allure of travel. I knew that they gave me the option of where I wanted to live. I had to pick from 6 different locations. I chose Miami. So some of that stuff the FBI wouldn't have offered. And surely you wouldn't have gotten to travel the world like I did with the Secret Service.
Now, why is the Secret Service in Miami?
So they've got field offices all over the world, in most major cities and even in small towns, because there's financial infrastructure of the United States is what they do when they're not doing protection. So when I wasn't protecting foreign heads of state or the president or whoever was in town, I was doing counterfeit currency investigations, credit card fraud, mortgage fraud. There's any number of crimes that affect the financial infrastructure of the U.S. So that's
not quite as exciting as hanging out with Michelle Obama.
Correct.
Tell us about how did you get assigned to the Obama White House?
It was in the midst of the campaign in 2016. I was bouncing. We would do 3 weeks on the road, 3 weeks back home. And then you do these rotations all year long. And my time was coming due to move to a permanent protective detail. And so I had witnessed on the campaign trail how Trump was handling himself, how those rallies went and felt as we were securing them and, doing our job. And then the Hillary campaign was seeing how that was shaping up and, you had a front row seat to all this stuff, interacting with staff members and just getting a real feel for how it might be. And knowing Obama was going to come out of office in January of 2017. So I was like, well, they have a place in Hawaii. I know we're going to be going there a lot. I love Hawaii. I also wanted to stay in DC a bit because my then husband, that's where we lived. So I was like, I'm going to opt to go sign up to help form the Obama division and do that. And then in August of 2016, I got a phone call that I was being reassigned to the Obamas, and that's fortunately worked out very well, I believe.
And there you are with Michelle. Tell us about meeting the Obamas for the first time.
I had had interactions with the president when I was in Miami and just working these different sites around town. So the butterflies of getting all nervous and tensed up when you meet these hyper politicians and these world leaders. So it became a little bit more normalized just because it was the profession. But then just being able to spend several years with them and just seeing how genuine and down to earth and grounded they are, just such honorable and super intelligent. It was just an amazing time to get to travel the world, to be able to protect them and make sure that they could do what they needed to do. They knew our first names. It was all very professional, but also there was respect for us doing our jobs and them, of course, giving them the privacy and everything they need to do what they need to do. It was just an amazing opportunity. I'm forever thankful I got to do that. And that picture you showed was from San Francisco. And I had left 6 months prior. And so she came out to San Francisco, and then I went and got to go meet her and catch up with my peers and go backstage. And she remembered exactly who I was. She's like, "Oh my God, Cory, how are you? How have things been? What are you doing now?" So it's just 6 months later, and she still remembered who I was. Was beautiful, and that's where that picture came from.
That would not surprise anyone. Well, tell me about the boundaries. You don't go with them there. You don't listen to conversations. Tell me something about that.
Yeah, it's a known, and that's part of the job and the profession is no matter what's heard, and driving her from Washington D.C. to New York City, she's sitting right behind me. I'm driving the car. She's in you're of course going to hear things, but you just tune it out. It's none of your business. It's not like you're going to turn on and repeat any of it to anybody. It's just respecting each other and knowing, even as I wrote the book, I knew that that was a line I was not willing to cross out of respect for Michelle and Barack Obama, but also my peers who are still to this day doing that job and that mission I certainly wouldn't sacrifice our integrity or that of the agency to like spill the dirt.
Right.
And I had a publisher who emailed me back and they were like, "Oh, we want more dirt on the Obamas." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, you're not going to get it." And I did not go with that publisher because it would have sold more books. And so I was very cognizant as I walked that line.
And how about the girls, the children?
Um, they were great. No problem. I went to Harvard with Malia her first semester. Went up to Boston, spent a lot of time up there, just making sure she was safe as she kind of transitioned from White House days and now being, an independent person on her own, because eventually Secret Service protection ends for children of the presidents. So they were just children living their lives, and we, let them do their thing, and we do our job and make sure they're kept safe.
What did any other Secret Service men or people give you advice before you took the job in the White House?
No. So I had a friend of mine was a uniform division officer, and I met him when I was a police officer in Richmond. It was probably 2006. And so I did know somebody who worked for the agency. And of course, it was just alluring, and I knew I wanted to go more than just being a police officer. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's very noble, and forever thankful for it. But no, I didn't know anybody who was specifically a Secret Service agent who I could like bounce stories off of and really get a feel for it, of like what this life really is and what it meant.
When the previous president, Donald Trump, he had his Secret Service details, and some of them, rumors had it, were MAGA people. Did you see any division in the Secret Service that where people were vocal about their political persuasions?
No, not really. And I was never assigned to him as a protective detail, like full time. So I was with him on the campaign in 2016, and I did his inaugural event at Union Station the eve of inauguration. That was my site. So I was knee deep in all of that. But our politics, they just don't matter. They're set to the side. You leave them at the door. We have a job to do. It doesn't matter who you like, who you voted for. It's completely irrelevant. And just like when the Pope came into town, I section of the National Mall and the Washington Monument and all that was in my zone. And I'm responsible for making sure the Pope comes in and gets out of my area. It didn't matter what religion I was or that I was a gay man, protecting the Pope. None of that's relevant. You do your job and you do it the best you can to get them out as far as out of your zone to somebody else.
How was Michelle and your gayness? Anything? Do you have conversations about that?
Never came up. I'm sure it was. I'm not super flamboyant. I don't know if they do or not. They probably do now. But no, we just had a great, her team. We are family, and I caught up with one of them yesterday, just outside of the Reagan International or the Reagan Airport. So it's been 4.5 years that I left, and I still was able to catch up and have coffee yesterday with one of the staff members and just catch up. And we became family because we traveled the world 60% of the time, and we're a small, tight group, and you've got to rely on each other. So it was just such a great environment, and it really had to be for us to succeed.
Let's go back to your screening and your training to be a Secret Service. Tell me that process.
Boy, 18 months from the date of application until I got my start date was 18 months. And I was a pristine police officer, and I was diversified and doing all kinds of collateral duties to make sure that I was outperforming and outshining my peers to get hired federally. But man, it was a long, long process. Home interviews, home visits. They did talk to all your family members. Interviewed my ex. Polygraph that was hours long. I think that was 6 hours.
Oh my gosh!
And I came out of there feeling like an absolute dirtbag, like I had just committed so many crimes in my life. And that's just the psychology that goes into polygraphs. And so that's how they elicit information from you. And I had actually outed myself during the polygraph just due to the makeup of the questions. They had asked if I had ever done anything that brought shame to my family. And at the time, I was newly coming out and telling mom and like stepping out into my own in my personal life. And so I admitted during the polygraph that, yeah, I might have brought shame to my family because I'm gay and I came out fairly recently. And so, of course, it hurt mom. You know, it's the process that we all have to go through. So that was, I don't want to repeat that again. It was a long process.
How about training? Tell me something about the training. Where do you train, and what are some of the things you are trained with?
Did the training was split into two different locations. You do 3 or 4 months in Georgia to get your like criminal investigations under your belt, so you come out certified by the federal government as a criminal investigator / special agent. And then you would go to Maryland, outside of DC on the Beltway, as the Secret Service training ground, and it's a massive spread. And then we'd spend another 4 months there of just doing high intense, anything from protection of running through scenarios of you're driving down an alley and somebody ambushes you or cuts off your motorcade and you have to figure out your way out. Use of force, ground fighting, and just working out constantly, but also, came out of there in the top fitness that I've ever been in. Like 4% body fat. It was intense. And not everybody makes it through. And that's just the nature of what it is you've got to have great quality people who can do the job. And if something goes bad, you've got to be able to get your people out of there. And not everybody makes it through. So it was tough.
During the training, did you ever think, oh, is this worth it?
No. I was in it to win it. It was what I wanted. And, bruised rib and blood, you go through it. But then at the end of the day, and, getting my, classmate of mine was 100 pounds heavier and we were fighting each other, pinned me in a corner and just cold cocks me across the chin. And, the stars all go off in my head. I'm like, what the hell just happened? But then you learn to fight through that. And that was the whole point of this guy. Was 100 pounds heavier than me, but figuring out how to survive and how to get on the ground, get off the ground and overcome these people that are, I'm not a massive man by any means. So it was just absolutely amazing training.
Tell me about your first time stepping on Air Force One.
Never did it.
No?
No. So on Inauguration Day in January of 2017, I had a different assignment. And so I had to get the limos out from the White House grounds out to Joint Base Andrews, which is where Air Force One and Marine One takes off and lands. And so I'm standing there waiting for them to arrive from the Capitol just after swearing in. Marine One lands, Obama and the family gets off, get on Air Force One along with all my peers, and off they go to California. And I'm standing there watching it, green with envy.
Oh.
And I'm like, this is the one opportunity I had, but I had to, woe is me. The very next day I had to go to Park City, Utah to spend time. So, it wasn't that bad. I just had a different assignment to go with one of the Obama daughters to go to the Sundance Film Festival. It was fine. It worked out great. But no, I'd never actually get on. I watched it take off and land countless times.
Oh my.
But never rode on it.
That to me, that would be disappointing. Yes.
It was a little bit.
Anything similar to that experience that you encountered, or some of the places that you got to travel to?
Man, we're all over the place. I mean, anywhere from Asia to Europe, of being on helicopters and doing sweeps around Washington, D.C., ahead of Air Force One or ahead of Marine One. And I think there's a picture out there of me on one of the helicopters. It just says pinch me moments of like, I'm getting paid to do this. Yeah, that was with the U.S. Park Police. And it was just normal for us to go out, and I'm getting paid to fly around DC looking for people on rooftops with grenade launchers or whatever it may be. But also standing at the foot of the stage in Paris, and Beyonce and Jay-Z are 3 feet away performing. And Miss Knowles is also to my left. And, after the show, we go backstage and hanging out with and having conversations with Jay-Z. Beyonce floats by. It's like she walks on a cloud. It was so fascinating. Going to the Grammys in 2019 of like backstage with Ricky Martin and, you know, Lady Gaga and Dolly Parton, like all these icons. And I'm just standing backstage with all of them. And it's
as a gay man.
Yeah. meeting Anderson Cooper and Leslie Jordan of those. It's like these.
Yeah, there's Leslie Jordan. I had my picture taken with Leslie when he was in a show off Broadway. So let's watch some of those other pictures, Russell. Throw them up there, and we'll walk through that. Oh, who's that cute little boy?
I think I was 8 at that point. And that was Air Force basic training. I actually flew home on September 10th of 2001, day before 9/11. And that's actually a more recent picture. I'm now a supervisory special agent, so I now lead a couple of teams on the West Coast. So we were out on an operation, and I believe that's where that's from. And that is the Pope in the background. That was 2015 when he was in Washington, D.C., and that was the media pen was in my zone. So all eyes were on me all day long. I had to make sure my hair looked fantastic.
And it does.
This is hiking in Malibu Hills. Michelle is extremely fit. And so we would go out and hike for like 14, 15 miles. And that's me on the left. There's a machine gun on my backpack. I'm just having to go out and make sure that we are fit enough to keep up with her. But also, again, one of those things like I'm getting paid to work out and I love working out. It was such a great fit. That is at the Grammys backstage. We were prepping right before everybody starts to go on stage and everything kicks off. I was there with Michelle in February of 2019. Well, that looks vaguely familiar. That would be my book.
When did your book come out?
We released it at the very end of March of this year. That's actually me on the cover. My fiance took that picture, and we actually designed the book, and that stuff on the back that's my stuff of my diplomatic passport and the things in the book. It was fun to design all that and have a direct hand in like what the end product was.
Of course. So what are you doing now?
I know I'm a supervisory special agent, so I'm still in federal law enforcement, and I now am thankful to lead a couple of different teams on the West Coast. So now I'm guiding and helping the next generation of special agents as they come into law enforcement, of make sure they're trained properly and make sure that we have a diverse workforce. We certainly need that. And part of the hope is that other people connect with my story and can see themselves, because law enforcement is just by its very nature, very white male dominated and hyper masculine. So being white male, that certainly has played well for me. I can't negate that that's helped me get to where I'm at. But we also need a lot of diversity brought into the profession to make sure that it represents the public in which we serve, whether it's gay, straight, African-American, Indian-American, doesn't matter. So it's great to be able to have a hand in that, as I'm now a hiring manager as well, to make sure that we're fulfilling those goals.
Was your book vetted by anyone? Did it have to go through any governmental proofreading?
No. So I walked that line really well, and I knew, okay, this will get me in trouble. This won't. I don't want to say this. No, and I've been commended by a lot of my peers, which is the highest compliment of, they really love how well I walked that line. And the book is about me. It's not about the Secret Service. It's not like a pull back the curtain, tell all the secrets. That's not at all what it is. And I knew that when I wrote it, that was not the direction I wanted to go. And so I've been very fortunate that, knock on wood, I haven't gotten in trouble yet.
All right, Russell, let's show the book one more time. All right, Breaking Free. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Cory. Your book is a great example, and I believe it is a recruiting tool for the Secret Service and other law enforcement to the gay community. So thank you very much for that.
I hope so. And thank you, Amber May, for having me on. It has been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for what you do for all of us.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye, Cory.
Take care.